Hey everybody, Livingston here. Today we're jumping into another fun-filled episode of the Twilight Zone. This time it's Season 2, Episode 26, Shadowplay. Came on May 4th, 1961, and another episode I haven't sat down and watched before. But before we get started, let's jump into the comments section and see what you had to say about last week's episode, The Silence. Keith Williams, 7275, says, I highly recommend the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's my favorite sci-fi movie of all time. Bernard Herrmann's innovative score is heard throughout the film. I actually really enjoyed The Day the Earth Stood Still. I rewatched it probably a few years ago. Holds up really well in terms of the story. I have also watched the remake. I think it's about 20 years old now with Keanu Reeves, but that's a great take of that movie. Not as good as the original, but every time I think of The Day the Earth Stood Still, I always think of Klaatu Barada Nikto. Of course, I say it that way because that's when Ash Williams, who is played by Bruce Campbell in Army of Darkness, 1993, says those same words in order to make it okay to pick up the Book of the Dead. And of course, he just kind of goes, Klaatu Barada, and forgets the last phrase. If you haven't seen the movie, check out Army of Darkness, Sam Raimi movie. It's part of the trilogy, the Evil Dead trilogy. Definitely check it out. But yeah, great movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still. Thanks for the comment. Welch says, one of my least favorite, sorry. I'm sorry to see that it is not your favorite episode. I thought it was a very inventive way of having a nice twist at the end. That was one of the twists of all Twilight Zone so far where I did not get it up until the very moment that the twist happened. Typically, I can see when the twist is going to show up, maybe 5-10 minutes. Sometimes even at the very beginning, you get an idea what's going to happen. You just had these little, things dropped here and there, little mystery, little... Here's this clue that can possibly tell you what's going to happen at the very end of the episode if you pay attention. Richard Chase, 2960, says, prime reason why small YouTubers are way better. Love your channel and your interactions with your community. Great work, my boy. May your channel see huge subscriber numbers. Hey, appreciate the comment. I really enjoy it when somebody gives me a pat on the back. Who the heck doesn't? But I plan on continuing on, and the more I continue on, the more people are going to follow and subscribe, and really do appreciate everybody who has subscribed thus far. We're closing in on 3,000 subscribers, which, to me, that's big numbers for me. I mean, I haven't seen 3,000 subscribers ever on a YouTube channel for what I was running. And, after 3,000, we're going to keep on going to 3, 4, 5, and maybe hit 10 pretty soon at some point in next year. But, hey, I just enjoy doing it. I don't do it for all the subscribers, but it's definitely a perk. And I enjoy talking to the community that I have right now. I do plan on doing more for the channel, like a podcast. I want to talk about the movies and the television shows that we have in the comments section. One of them piqued my interest, Tales from the Crypt. I haven't sat down and watched a Tales from the Crypt since maybe the 90s. And I've only seen a few episodes. And when I was watching those episodes, I wasn't too fond of them due to the fact that I was young and it scared me. So I try to stay away from those at that time, but now, it might be cool to sit down and watch that for this channel. Much like the Twilight Zone, and much like The Outer Limits, it's every episode's a one-off, a new story, a new tale to tale, and so it might be cool to do that along with the podcast. And I also do Versus episodes, which are fun. I did them maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I stopped doing them just because I got so busy. More conversations to have about movies and television, which is what I enjoy doing. Thanks for the comment, Richard. Robert Jewell, 9727, says, it's hard for me to like an episode in which I don't like a single person in it, and the whole story is aiming for the twist at the end. I know it's popular with a lot of Twilight Zone fans, but I just find it meh. Well, I guess it's because there's not any fantasy or science fiction involved. It's just two people who make a bet and they go too extreme. Both of them do. I think it ranks high due to the fact that it has a wonderful twist at the end that a lot of people just don't see coming. You just don't think it's going to happen the way that it did in this actual episode. So I can see why it's meh for you. It's just not your typical Twilight Zone. But hey, maybe you'll like the next one and we'll talk about it. Thanks for the comment. Charles Stewart, 8009, says, I guess that he couldn't talk but didn't know why. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, if you coughed, if you sneezed, these are noises that people would do, right? And I said this during the episode. Would they just overlook that? Is it just words that need to come out of his mouth? But the guy enjoyed talking, so He just didn't have the willpower to keep his mouth shut, and he ended up snipping his vocal cords. Pretty sad, but it's just how Twilight Zone is sometimes. And they weren't the greatest of people, so you completely understand why some people just didn't like it due to the fact that they just weren't nice. Charles Stewart 8009 also says, Maple Street, the monsters of Maple Street. The neighborhood goes nuts when the power goes out. Aliens. He was more or less the leader of the neighborhood. Oh yeah, I guess he was. I just totally overlooked it. Okay, thanks for letting me know, Charles. Kellen Winslow, 1988. Another great episode. The scene where the main character is taunted about his wife cheating on him is intense. Writers like Rod Serling and Richard Matheson are sorely missed in this day. It's yet another notch in the great Jerry Goldsmith belt that he worked on this important show. It's only fitting that he did the soundtrack for the Twilight Zone movie 20 years later. Getting the Blu-ray set of this is a great buy. The commentary by Mark Scott Zicree and the actors and directors is worth it just for that. I didn't know they did commentary for this. It would be very interesting to actually sit down and watch the commentary for the Twilight Zone, especially the episodes I've already seen, and get more input on those. But thanks for letting me know. And yeah, it is a great episode. To me, it definitely was a great episode. We've had some people who didn't like it, but hey, I think it ranks fairly high in Season 2, in my opinion. But again, subjective. It's opinion. Nene's hubby, or is it Nene Shubby? I don't know. A number of commentators have mentioned the injury that Francho Tone suffered during filming. Oh yeah, the actor. The amazing thing is being forced to hide the injuries with odd camera angles, adding to the sliminess of his character. By the way, this is yet another Twilight Zone anti-gambling episode. Yeah, very true. I really didn't think about it being another anti-gambling episode, but yeah, well, looking back on it now, it definitely is. Both of them ended up screwed, and maybe the guy ended up getting paid by all the people who were there surrounding him. Maybe they felt bad, and they'll start writing him checks as the other guy's kicked out of the club. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's left up to your own interpretation. You don't know how the Twilight Zone is going to end, and when it ends, it's just make up your own ending after the fact, like where do the characters end up. And I would like to think that the guy ended up with some money, but he couldn't talk, and the other one, the one that made the bet, was just kicked out of the club and probably lived the rest of his life alone. I don't know, but definitely not a great ending. Ben Rositas 8068 says, the least all those rich club members could have done is chip in to fund, or at least somewhat compensate poor Mr. Tennyson. But alas, well, maybe they did. We don't know. It was just kind of left up like, oh no, how could this guy make this bet and let him sit in there for a year when he didn't have the money to give him at the very end of it all? Maybe they did pay him. I hope they did. But of course it's a story, so I'm just making it up. But I believe maybe a few people kind of chipped in a check or two. Well, we won't know. We won't ever know. But hey, make it up, right? When Scribe 1229 says, in my opinion, both parties cheated. Colonel Taylor for not having the money to back up his bet, and Tennyson for having his vocal cords severed. Tennyson paid dearly for his blind faith in Taylor, but Taylor had no consequence for lying about not having the money to back up his bet. All of the club members should have booted out Taylor then and there at the very minimum. As you pointed out in the introduction, Twilight Zone is a work of fiction, and the behaviors and props are not always meant to be realistic, but to be willing to go through such extreme medical procedure to win a bet and stretching the viewer's suspension of disbelief beyond the breaking point. If I had written this story, I would have had Tennyson lose his voice simply because he hadn't used it in a full year. Plus because out of nervousness, he smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day for all that time. Sorry, not sorry, sponsors. As a footnote, since you often like to point out how different the ethics of commercials were back then, 9 out of 10 doctors recommended Red Apple cigarettes. It would have been fun to add a commercial break somewhere in your video featuring one of those old-timey commercials. Maybe I might do that. I mean, at the same time, I don't know what it is to do the copyright of things. I might put a commercial in there just to see what happens. If there is any kind of copyright strike. If there isn't, I'll let it stand and leave it alone. If it ends up being copyright struck, I will edit it out and there won't be none the wiser of it. But I'll give it a go and see what happens. Robert Schulenberger says, somehow I knew you would never see the twist ending coming, that Tennyson had the nerves to his vocal cords severed. Francho Tone had to be shot from the left side of his face in certain parts of this episode. I don't even know if I'm saying that first word right, but I'm going to say it's French, so it's like Francho or something like that. But the next episode I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions of is, will the real Martian please stand up in the next few weeks? Well, we're going to get there. Next few weeks, that's going to be in September, so looking forward to jumping into that one. Jonathan Stein says, a pretty good episode, concerning it's one of the few without any sci-fi or supernatural elements. Very true. It was very straightforward. It's something that could happen in reality if the people were that crazy enough to go through and snip some vocal cords. Antonio Dragon 88 says Taylor had a real-life accident, left a side of his face scraped, raw, so they had to show him in profile for half the episode. That's been mentioned a couple times, and it's very interesting that they ended up going the route that they did. It was a happy accident that, I shouldn't say happy accident, he didn't like the accident, but it was a happy accident in terms of the filmmaking of the actual episode, because it just made his character just that much more creepier. Jay Fear says, funnily enough, many of the critics liked that about the episode, talking about the face scrape, that it's been made him to appear two-faced and look like he was literally talking out of the side of his mouth. Yeah, very true. It actually worked in their favor for sure. Well, that's it for the comments section, and that section keeps on getting longer and longer, but I appreciate everybody who actually commented and wanted to have a discussion about this episode. It's very fun to do, and we're going to keep on doing it. But before we get started, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to continue on this voyage to episode 156 of The Twilight Zone. And here we go.
That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone. Here they come.
It's very dramatic music. Whoa, we're in a court.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We find the defendant, Adam Grant, guilty of murder in the first degree.
Uh-oh.
Rise.
Not even going to look at the jury.
The defendant will rise.
Adam.
Do you have anything you wish to say before sentence is passed? Very well. That for the brutal and despicable crime of murder in the first degree, you shall be put to death.
Okay. Looks like he was mouthing the words that he knew what the judge was saying before he said it.
No! Not again!
No. Okay, he's done this before.
You can't make me die again!
Again? So what, does he go through this over and over and over?
Make him understand they're only a dream I'm having! Tell the district attorney he's prosecuted himself! Tell him, Mr. Carson, before it's too late! Tell him!
Adam Grant.
Hey.
Like every other criminal caught in the wheels of justice, he's scared, right down to the marrow of his bones. It's something else that holds Adam Grant in the hot, sweaty grip of fear. Something found only in the Twilight Zone.
Prediction. He is in a Jacob's Ladder situation. He is reliving the same thing over and over and over again. Jacob's Ladder is basically living in your own hell, your own personal hell, and you just keep reliving it over and over and over. It's a good movie, too, with Tim Robbins. Early 90s movie.
Lay off that thing, will you? It's all right, Coolidge. It's my fault. I got you out of a bad movie I saw once. Just like everything else in this corny dream.
It's a pretty real dream.
Let me give you some advice. Don't think about it.
Don't let them hurt me. Don't let them hurt me.
Don't think your mom can help you there.
A month ago, he was a human being. Now what is he? Why? Because he couldn't stop thinking about it.
I know it. It's just different with me.
Sometimes I wonder, too, what it's going to be like.
I'll tell you what it's like. You walk out of your cell, past 2 gray doors, 78 steps to the final door. It's painted green.
78. Counted them, huh?
Door for you, and you go into a room.
Old Sparky.
It's all tan. It's like a chair you used to sit in when you were a kid. It's hard and solid.
Huh? Cut it out, cut it out.
Then they attach the electrodes. It's funny. They always feel cold to the touch at first.
Oh, Grant, you talk like you've been...
Always. How many times has he relived through this?
It smells like an old sofa. And you wait. Every muscle tense. Straining.
How do you know it smells like an old sofa? I mean, I'm talking about the writers. Did they personally smell it? Or did they just make that up?
You pull the switch.
Hey, steak. Is this the last meal? T-bones. A pound. No, this is at a person's home.
Madam,
Who is it? Hello?
food and lodging for the night.
You're loaded. I've just been insulted by your wife. She says I'm loaded. Well, aren't you?
Did you drive? It's very bad to drive while you drink.
Hey, take it easy. That's my best gin.
When I die, I don't want to see any full bottles around.
That's not funny.
A happy life, Paul Carson. Come,
What's he doing?
drink and be merry.
Oh, shut up, Paul.
Come on.
Only a few more hours.
I knew it the minute you walked in. We're not nervous enough. Oh, no. We have to listen to the great city editor with his...
If I'm not welcome here, then I shall go elsewhere and breathe my last.
Had enough of this wake anyway. Good night, dear.
What about dinner?
Lost my appetite.
Well, it's more T-bone for me.
Oh, the steak can come out in 5 minutes.
Great. Now you got a friend to have it with. Or have steak and eggs in the morning.
You mean to say you believe that crazy story?
At least I believe it's possible. Well, why not? Can we prove he's wrong?
He believes that the guy is reliving this over and over and over again.
This guy killed a man in cold blood and he's going to pay for it. Those are the facts. Anything else is speculation, fantasy.
Sure.
Yes, I'm...
Well, cold blood, I mean, he definitely deserves what's coming, especially what he's living through.
Hank, haven't you ever stopped and said to yourself, this couldn't be real?
Of course, everyone has. If you're a success, you're bound to think it's a dream. If not, you think it's a nightmare. This only proves that Grant is human, so he tries to convince himself that it isn't. Not really.
I mean, it's a logical explanation. Until...
Go down there and see for yourself. Don't take my word for it. You've only listened to him once.
That was enough.
Go and see him. Let him tell you. Please, Hank.
It's pointless, but...
Thanks. Jiggs!
What's up?
What time is it?
9:05. Why? You got a date somewhere?
No, just expecting someone.
Yeah.
It's a district attorney. He usually comes around about 9.
The DA himself, huh?
Yep.
You got a great sense of humor, pal.
That was not a block wall.
Something else that doesn't work, the watch.
Yeah, how's that?
Prisoners about to be executed aren't allowed to wear watches because of the glass.
Okay, so why is he wearing a watch?
He's right on time, huh, Jiggs?
10 minutes, Mr. Ritchie.
You can leave us alone.
What if I need 15?
Hello, Grant.
Hello, Mr. Ritchie.
Howdy.
You don't seem surprised to see me.
You always come. I mean, the district attorney always comes. It isn't always you.
Grant, I take it you're sticking to this dream story of yours.
That's right.
It can't possibly do you any good now. You realize that.
Every night it's the same.
Explain again.
Because this world does not exist. It's a dream of mine. It's a nightmare. Can't you understand that?
Kind of, but I don't think he's living in that reality.
Do you think you'd be visiting a man that was just about to be executed in real life? Of course not. They wouldn't allow you in here. You don't know any more about me now than you did when this thing started. I'm a stranger.
There are 100 vagrants in every town without names, without history. Stop that!
He's had this discussion before.
I don't think you're deliberately lying to me. I'm going to destroy that story of yours, Grant, now, once and for all. And when you wake up, we all disappear, right?
That's right. A dream builds its own world, Mr. Ritchie. It's complete. You only sleep and dream because I dream you that way.
Okay.
You've got to wake up sometime, even if you're electrocuted, so why don't you just sit back and enjoy it?
You know you're going to live through it and just relive it the next time and the next time and the next time. Might as well pull a Bill Murray from Groundhog Day and just learn to play the piano.
You've got to believe me. I can't go on dying. I can't go on dying. I can't. I'm telling the truth, Mr. Ritchie.
Police brutality.
Your wife, she has a steak cooking for you. Go home, look in the oven. It'll be something else.
Well, he was right about that. A T-bone. 2 of them. Oh, it wasn't steak.
That's a roast.
What about it?
Maybe we're not having a Jacob's Ladder situation, because usually in those issues, it's because he's reliving his own personal hell in hell. So when they die, it just starts them back over, and it's just a consistent loop for eternity. This seems a little different.
I've been thinking about what you said about this all being a dream, you know? But if you told that story to the governor, he might let you out on a cycle. And they don't burn guys with loose cogs.
Jiggs, don't you think that all of this is just a little bit too much the way it should be? I got tried and sentenced the same day. It doesn't work like that.
I mean, not typically. Maybe he's in a coma. I don't know. There really is a dream.
Real death houses aren't like that, but you see, I've never been in a real death house. That's my impression of it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're freaking out.
Brothers Grimm, as I live.
What are you doing up?
Have they...
15 more minutes.
15 minutes, he'll be dead?
And why does this always happen around midnight? Yeah, but why?
You tell me why.
The movies, it always happens at midnight.
Because movies are technically accurate.
Oh, it usually happens early in the morning, though. When 4, 1, 8. Last rites. Buck pray.
Anything you wish to say in these few moments remaining to you, my son?
Nope.
Then let us pray. You feel detached from reality?
Slightly.
I not only feel it, I am detached.
I wonder where I've seen you, where your face came from. It's familiar, almost
Huh.
every time. It just about comes to me.
We've never met.
Yes, we have. Father Beeman.
Hell, no wonder I didn't recognize you. You died when I was 10 years old.
Huh. So he recognizes somebody.
Yes, and then a young priest came and took your place. You know, I'm using him for the editor.
But what about Richie, the district attorney? He must have been a school teacher of mine. Maybe he was a friend of Dad's.
Well, thanks for blessing me. He's just so lost in his own thought. Come on, you can do it.
Hey, Grant, they can't do this to you. You're home in bed, asleep. Remember? It's time to wake up, boy. Wake up!
Well, you can at least get a stay of execution. I know you can do that.
What good would it do?
They're starting to believe it. This is another one where it's making you go,
Because we might be wrong, well, maybe we are, but maybe we're not. Kid is sick in the head. Are you gonna send a mental incompetent to the chair?
Maybe, maybe not.
I regret this, Paul. I'll regret this as long as I live.
Gotta be sure. He might be loony.
Hello, this is Henry Ritchie. I want to speak to the governor.
Well, they're gonna get to him on time?
Well, I don't care. This is an emergency. Wake him up. Hurry. Governor, I don't have time to explain, but I want you to grant a stay of execution in the case of Adam Grant.
But hurry up.
He's calling now.
Is he gonna be on time? Yeah, this is when they throw the switch. Oh, no. Okay. Whoa, something changed. Everything goes to black. Doesn't matter if they put him to death or not. He still wakes up in the same place.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Huh. All in different places.
We find the defendant, Adam Grant, guilty of murder in the first degree.
We know that a dream can be real. We exist, of course, but how? Or are we simply parts of someone's feverish, complicated nightmare? Or do you live instead in the Twilight Zone?
Well, that's the end of this episode 26, Shadow Play. Interesting episode. I don't even know what to make of it still. I mean, I guess he was in the dream. It kind of was proven at the very end when he started over inside the courtroom, and it was exactly where we started the episode. Him basically pondering, looking off in shadow until it all lights up and you realize he's in court, about to see where he's going to go for the rest of his life, and he seems to know it since he's been living through it over and over and over again. I guess it is a Jacob's Ladder situation where there is no way out. He is stuck in this situation for eternity, and whether or not he was sleeping or whether he was in his own purgatory, who the heck knows, because this is definitely one where it's left up to interpretation. Not sure what to make of it, not sure if there's a right or wrong answer to it all. It's just one of those episodes where it makes you go, it could be a Jacob's Ladder. He could be in his own hell because he was a convicted murderer who killed somebody in cold blood, according to what it was stated. But if it was a dream, would they be able to, would the person dreaming, the guy in the cell named Adam, why would we have another scene of other people going on and then, like cooking dinner and having steak? Like, they have their own lives and their own families, and until, like, he starts over, like, they just all live within this bubble, I guess? I don't know. It's just one of those Twilight Zones where I don't think I'm ever going to come to a valid conclusion as to what was going on. But let's jump into some trivia and see what it took to get this episode off the ground. The title refers to the ancient art of shadow play or shadow puppetry, using figures that cast shadows on clear curtains. Such entertainment is known in countries throughout the world and is presented in theaters and by traveling tropes. This Shadow Play episode was remade and aired as a segment of the 1985 through 1989 series of Twilight Zone on April 4th, 1986. The remake holds closely to the plot of the original episode, in which a man on death row claims that he's having a recurring dream and that when he's executed, ending the dream, all the people in his dream world will cease to exist. The music score is the same score used in 22, another Season 2 episode. The song that Coley plays on the harmonica is Red River Valley. Well, that's it for this episode. Don't forget to tune in on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until next time, see you later.